Today, I'll be reading Karl's New Beak 3D Printing Builds a Bird a Better Life by Layla Nargi.
In the grassy space he shares with three African antelopes, an Abyssinian ground hornbill named Karl looks for insects and small mammals. He pinches them between the tips of his long curved beak. Then he eats them like any normal hornbill would. He tosses them in the air, catches them in his mouth, and swallows them whole. Delicious! But eating a meal wasn't always so easy for Karl. When he first came to the Smithsonian's National Zoo in Washington, D.C., part of his lower beak was worn away. The bone that supported it was too short. This made Karl's beak extra fragile. When Karl used his beak to dig for food, or when he wiped it on a branch to clean it, the beak would chip. Over time, it got shorter and shorter. So Karl had to adapt. Instead of gobbling small juicy bugs, he could only eat bigger meatballs and tiny mice the zoo staff fed him. He picked them up by tilting his head sideways and scraping his beak against the ground. Because of his broken beak, Karl's diet didn't have much variety. His keepers had to weigh him every week to make sure he was getting enough to eat. They also worried, was Karl bored? In the savannas of northern Africa, Abyssinian ground hornbills keep busy. They roam up to 7 miles a day on their scaly black feet, hunting. They might stick their beaks into hollows to rustle up spiders. They might catch tasty lizards or nibble sweet berries off of bushes. With so much of his lower beak gone, Karl couldn't nibble, and he couldn't hunt the critters that wandered into his enclosure. Karl was missing out on so many common hornbill behaviors. A male hornbill in the wild blinks his velvety eyelashes at an arid landscape. When he notices a venomous puff adder, he pounces. He snatches up the snake using his beak like toothless tongs. Then he crushes the snake's head. He might bring this prize to his mate and chicks in their nest. Karl couldn't do these things. His keepers wanted to breed him, but Karl's stubby beak made him a poor choice for a partner. How could he use his beak to deliver food to his family? His keepers knew Karl couldn't mate until his beak was fixed. They just had to figure out how to help. James Steele, the zoo's veterinarian, came up with a solution. He molded an artificial beak for Karl out of plastic called acrylic. He slipped his prosthesis on Karl's bottom bill. Karl was able to pick up all the crickets and mice and berries he wanted. But the hand-sculpted beak didn't fit very well, and the acrylic was too heavy. After a few weeks, the prosthesis broke off. James built another one, and then another. He built Karl 10 acrylic beaks in 2 years. None of them worked for long. Then James made a discovery. Across town, the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History had an old Abyssinian ground hornbill skeleton in its archive. That hornbill had been about Karl's size when it was alive in the 1930s. Could that hornbill's skull help the zoo staff make a beak for Karl? Could they use it as a template for a 3D printed prosthesis? It was worth a try. James carefully measured the length, width, and thickness of Karl's beak with a special tool called a caliper. He marked the angle of the beak's curves. Bobby McCusker, the zoo's exhibit specialist, made a computer model of the old hornbill skull. To do this, he put the skull into a 3D scanner. It spun on a turntable. Lasers beamed into its nooks and crannies, taking pictures of it from every which way. When Bobby uploaded this picture into a computer program, he could change it however he wanted. This would be the template for Karl's new prosthesis. Now, Bobby had to figure out how to shape the beak. There were a lot of challenges. For starters, birds' beaks aren't symmetrical. Bobby adjusted the computer model to get it to line up with Karl's unique bumps. He had to make sure the prosthesis would fit over them. A hornbill's beak has a groove inside it for scooping up drinking water. Bobby knew it was important to match the groove in the prosthesis with the groove in Karl's real beak. Curator Tony Barthel is in charge of caring for Karl and the other animals at the zoo's Cheetah Conservation Station's exhibit. He knew Karl's new beak had to be both strong and light. He helped choose the material to make it. Regular 3D printer plastic bent under pressure. The toughest printer plastic shattered if it was hit too hard. The plastic in between was just right, tough and durable, but flexible too. Now Bobby was ready to print out a prototype. The team used it to experiment with the fit. Assistant curator Gil Myers held Karl while Bobby slid it on his beak. It stuck and puckered in all the wrong places. Bobby made a second prototype, then a third. Each time he tweaked and fiddled some more. After 5 months of working out the details, Bobby printed a fourth beak. They all held their breath as they slid it onto Karl. Finally, the fit was just right. Now they had to attach it. Assistants held Karl and gave him medicine to calm him so he wouldn't squirm. Karl needed to be perfectly still so keepers could attach the beak in the right position. They monitored Karl's heart rate and breathing to make sure he was healthy and safe. While he was calm, they even gave him a nail and feather trim. Then James sanded Karl's bill to smooth it. This would help the prosthesis stick. He marked it with a pencil to show how far up the prosthesis would slide. James squeezed on glue and attached the prosthesis. Gil held it in place until the glue set. Then James filled in gaps with more glue. 30 minutes later, Karl had a new beak. The question now was, would it work? Back in the enclosure, Karl rubbed his beak against a branch like he was trying to scrape it off. But when he saw a meatball to eat, Karl nipped it right up without tilting his head. The beak worked! Still, it isn't quite perfect. Karl's beak has to be glued back on every few months. But he doesn't seem to mind. Karl spends his days wandering around the antelopes as he hunts for mice and mealworms and crickets. Karl can eat whatever he wants now, just the way a hornbill should. He also calls out, looking for other hornbills. Thanks to his handy new beak, Karl is ready to meet a mate. Some facts about Abyssinian ground hornbills and Karl. Abyssinian ground hornbills, scientific name Beak absiniacus, are native to several northern African countries. They're a little more than 40 inches, 1 meter tall, the size of wild turkeys. They have wingspans of 6 feet, or 2 meters, and can weigh as much as 11 pounds, or 5 kilograms. They're covered in a glossy black feathers. Their long black eyelashes are actually feathers too. Females have blue wattles or throat pouches. Males have red and blue wattles. Ground hornbills usually get around by walking or running, but they'll fly into a tree to roost at night, and sometimes to chase prey. No one knows how long they live in the wild, but in human care they can live up to 40 years. Karl was 27 years old when he got his new beak. An Abyssinian ground hornbill's most striking feature is its beak. It's about 8 inches or 20 centimeters long and black with a yellow spot at its base. It's topped with a hollow helmet called a casque. The casque makes a hornbill's call louder. A hornbill's call louder. A hornbill's beak is also its most important tool. It needs it to forage, kill prey, and eat. A male hornbill also uses its beak to woo a female, banging it on things to impress her and offering her food to show he'll be a good dad. Once he's won her over, he'll bring food to the nest for her and their chicks. Hornbills mate for life. When Karl came to the National Zoo in 2012 from the San Antonio Zoo in Texas, he had a longtime mate named Clarissa. Sadly, Clarissa died in 2017 from cancer. With luck, though, Karl will have a new mate soon. Thanks for listening.